Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining today's virtual conference. My name is Naina Acharya, and I'm your host for today. As the dynamics of business is changing worldwide, businesses are expected to become faster, more flexible, more granular, more accurate, and more efficient. Thus, there is a need to create business value across the entire business ecosystem. Supply chain, being a critical aspect, will need a complete revamp where business leaders can place sensors in everything, create networks everywhere, automate anything, and analyze everything to significantly improve performance and customer satisfaction. How can these be achieved using the relevant technology is a key point discussed in perpetually every boardroom. With this background, I'm happy to welcome you to a fantastic virtual conference hosted by Dun & Bradstreet India in association with Pluto 7 and Google Cloud. This conference envisages a discussion amongst two distinguished business leaders on understanding how cloud helped TVS Automobile Solutions Limited transform its supply chain and enhance customer experience. We encourage you to ask more questions in the session. We request you to please type your queries in the question section. This will be taken up in the Q&A session after the fireside chat discussion. You can use the chat section for sharing your views. A couple of tips though. We want you to know more, hence please mention your name and company name when you post your questions. You can also mention the person you are directing the questions to. As you can see here on the slides, we have given you options and examples of how you can use these two sections. The Q&A section and the chat section will help you converse better with the speakers and moderator. Sample is displayed. And we would love to put a name to the question as well. Therefore, we appreciate if you add your name and your company name and also mention the person you want to direct your question to. Now let's take a quick look at today's session. Please refer to the agenda that is displayed on your screen. We indeed have an eminent lineup of speakers. Well, now let's move to the most awaited knowledge sharing and interactive session, the fireside chat. With us today, we have two distinguished speakers who will help us understand a real situation and the seamless execution of new age technologies, which help them achieve an agile and flexible model. I'm keen to learn, sirs, on how you combated the situation and achieved business success.
Hi, Naina. Can I go ahead?
Hi. I would like, Anil, sir, I would like to introduce you first.
Sure.
I would like to invite Mr. Anil Valluri, Senior Director, Google Cloud, who will anchor the discussion. Welcome, Mr. Valluri, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I would now like to invite Mr. Sai Satish, Chief Technology Officer, TVS Automobile Solutions Limited, TASPL, who will share his experience as a business leader. Welcome, Mr. Satish.
Thank you, Naina. Good morning, all.
Good morning. And now I would like to hand over to Mr. Anil to please take the fireside chat forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naina. Thank you. Sai, if I may call you Sai, pleasure to have you on the fireside chat. I know you guys have done significantly different things during these times and in the past. My first question would be I'm curious to know, you're part of such a big 7.2 billion TVS organization, TVS Group, which is very reputed, very well known, particularly to a lot of us in South, right? And how did you get to create a company and expand to become one of the largest automobile aftermarket service provider when every automobile vendor wants to capture the customer to himself, whether through the entire life cycle? How did you manage it and how did you become successful? What's the mantra behind this?
Okay, great. As most of you know, TVS and automobiles has been synonymous for more than 100 years, primarily, right? So we were one of the pioneers in terms of launching of automobiles in the country, right? While we are known predominantly south, the entire automobile space, the group expanded into multiple divisions, right? Today, we supply the automotive components among these various various OEMs across the world. We are known for the quality, so we were the ones to introduce the Japanese level of quality in terms of achieving the lowest number of defects primarily. Then, of course, the entire you would have seen the growth from a TVS Motors perspective of the entire two-wheeler and three-wheeler in terms of having a foreign collaboration, then bringing the R&D back into India and launching new age bikes. So from a TVS Group perspective, the automobiles is something that is very close to our heart, and we are there in the entire automotive life cycle, right? So from that perspective, what has helped us is when we started first is our understanding of the consumer, right? When we started launching a bus service in Madurai, we were known for our punctuality, right? So people used to reset their watches based on our bus when it reaches the bus stop. That was how the yardstick was. So the connect with the customer for a group was always there, right? So we understood what was the need of the customer, the changing times. And then when the entire globalization came into play, the entire R&D came into play, the group expanded into multiple different things, into different various sectors of automobiles, in terms of manufacturing of components to fully launching vehicles. Pretty much, what we don't do is we don't manufacture four-wheelers. That's the only thing. But if you look at it, we are there in the two-wheeler space, three-wheeler space, and plus we supply a lot of this automotive components to multiple people, right? So that has been there very clearly. So for us, at the end of the day, automobiles and being close to the consumer has always been a mainstay, and we've been continuing with for over 100 years. That has been the hallmark of us.
Thank you. And since you said 100 years, I remember from my childhood the cargo trucks going the TVS logo with a circle around it, right? It's so imprinted in the mind, and have seen it for so long. It's quite synonymous, the TVS brand. So you've done the whole thing around economies of scale and how did you in expansion, right? And they must have posed their own set of challenges, right? I mean, both on the back end side as well as on the front end side, from customer side and the sourcing side. Can you share with us 3 challenges that probably hampered you or came as hurdles, and how did you overcome it? What competitive edge did they provide?
Sure. So I'll just take a little step back to kind of talk about the industry that we are in very clearly, right? So the aftermarket industry is completely unorganized, right? So in the way, if you look at the life cycle of a customer, typically when they go buy a new car or a two-wheeler at a dealership, they continue to kind of work with the dealership for the first 2 years, first 2 to 3 years. And then they start to look at the neighborhood garages, which somebody would recommend, saying that, okay, this guy does service. And then pretty much they tend to continue for the next 4 or 5 years. And then they said, okay, it's time for me to upgrade to a new car, right? So we are in the segment where we cater to customers who have bought vehicles 2 years prior, who are primarily out of warranty. Yeah. And this is a completely unorganized sector. So we are probably one of the very few corporates in this particular sector who are saying that at the end of the day, you don't need to go to a OEM. There are equivalently good service providers with capable technicians and the same original parts that can service your vehicle, plus can offer you a lot more other services for you, which are pretty much close by. So if you look at a country like us, when you stay in a location, you tend to go to a dealership which is close to you when you buy a car, right? But then when you move houses, then you will have to look for it's almost like another dealership, right? Unfortunately, even the dealerships in India are all privately, individually owned. So you'll find in places like Bangalore, you'll find probably if you take a Toyota or a Honda, you'll find only one, right? If you go to the next guy, it's just owned by somebody else who has his own set of standards. So there is no set of standards that are available in the country to kind of drive all of these. So for us, when we came into in the aftermarket, so we said we look at a couple of 2 things. One, very clearly, right? Second, what is the key factor for a customer? Customer today do not know anything about automotive. If I go to a garage, I tell them, look, I need to do an oil change, right? So an oil change, he's going to change the filter, he's going to put an oil. So probably the only question that somebody would ask is which brand of oil you were putting, right? Because they've seen ads like a Castrol or a Mobil, right? That's the only thing. But they will never ask you what oil filter you're putting, right? What brake pads you're changing. Because people don't associate the actual brands. They kind of leave it to the garages to kind of. So for us, it is important that since the trust is placed on the garages, there is also a set of no doubt. Okay, is he putting the right spare part? Is it original or is it cheaper one that is getting to market? So there are always these doubts that linger on the customer's mind as to, because you're giving it for service. At the end of the day, when your bill comes, then only you get to know what are the parts that is being changed, right? So obviously there's a level of disconnect. So for us, we wanted to first bring in the set of transparency, right? One of the thing what we wanted to bring is essentially the set of transparency. That's what we say in TVS. It's the transparency, value, and service that what we provide primarily. The key thing is, how do you provide the set of transparency to the customer, saying that, look, one is this really a fault with your vehicle? This is the reason for it. Second is, this is the actual part that is being changed primarily, and why are we changing the part? So that actually helps the customer gain knowledge and helps increase the level of trust. If we say, no sir, no, your clutch is probably, you're reaching 40,000 kilometers and probably you need to change it right now. So that's what it is. Because if you go to an OEM dealership, there is always a standard that is always good. Oh, your car is 25,000 kilometers. We have to do this 10-point checkup, right? That's what people know. 10 point, 20 point, or 30 point. Why we do that is, it's never a question that we ask, because we always leave it to that. But as customers become more knowledgeable, it is a duty in our part to kind of engage with the customer, tell them, look, at the end of the day today, the car has about 70 to 80% mechanical parts still, right? The fact is, it is mechanical parts and they are all go by wear and tear. And we know by history that these parts, they have a wear and tear based on the amount of mileage that you have done. And that's what kind of makes a difference. And that point, we have to go tell the customer, saying that if, let's say, for example, a certain belt needs to be changed at 60,000, now you're telling a customer why it needs changed at 40,000 kilometers, we have to educate them as to why it is happening primarily, right? Because obviously, the first question they'll ask is, no, when the OEM sold the car, he said, no, I don't need to worry about this for 75,000 kilometers. Why are you changing it for? Right?
Correct.
It's all a question of education to the customer, saying that why we are changing it. Today, customers are also knowledgeable, right? They go to the internet, they search for it, they get a lot of advice, and they come back, right? So this is not that. So our education is just a kind of reinforcement, saying that this part needs to be changed, and what is the reasons for changing it, and why are we changing it? So that's the key. The first part is basically want to earn the trust of the customer. That is one. Second is from our perspective, we are not only a largest aftermarket service, right? We also are the largest distributor of automotive components. So we represent close to about 100 brands in India, both local and as well as foreign components. And we are able to provide components for almost about 80 to 90%, except for the body parts, which typically an OEM supplies. Rest of all the other components, we are the
largest kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely, right. Same thing. Yeah. So we kind of provide all these components. So when we provide these components, so we would also need to know whether this component can fit in what vehicle, because unfortunately in India, there could be generic component that can go. For example, if I take a particular filter, it can go in a Tata vehicle, it can go in a Hyundai vehicle, it can go in multiple vehicles, primarily because it's a generic component like a filter. So what we also need to look at is what is the right component, which vehicles can actually fit in, what are the various models that can fit. For example, we don't have a large auto database in India. So we are the first to create a large catalog. So for example, if somebody says, for a commercial vehicle, let's say for example, Ashok Leyland, for a certain BS3 vehicle, I need to change a part. A lot of these garages or retailers know only by part numbers. So they will be able to do a recall immediately and saying this is the part number. But if an Ashok Leyland comes and says, no, this part number can also be used for 5 other things, they will have to remember that, right? So in today's digital age is also about providing this information to our customer segments, stating that, okay, they have access to such kind of information, that what is this part, who is the manufacturer, which vehicle it will actually fit on, including the year and variant, and what is the procedure for it. So we were the first to actually digitize this entire format, so that our customer segment, which is the retailers and garages, when they buy the products, when we distribute the products to them, they know this can be fitted onto that as well, very clearly. So that is also an educational area where we have to go by when we have to digitize this entire information. So today it is available for them on an e-commerce platform, so they can look at the part, they can look at the compatibility, they can check to see what are the alternate parts. So everything is on a digital catalog for them. For that, it's like an easy for them to kind of search, select, order the part, and the part is available for them within the next 24 hours. Some cases within the city, the next 4 hours it is available, very clear. So that's the second segment I would want to kind of address, where we had to kind of ensure that these people are knowledgeable and they have access to the right parts. The third is the other set of services that we provide is what is called as roadside assistance. That is also a key thing. So we are also one of the largest roadside assistance providers in the country. So if your car or a vehicle breaks down at any point of time, you tend to call a number. Most of these calls land up in our place, and we have a technology to go assist these customers primarily, right? So that is also an emergency assistance. And you know how people are stuck in emergency, right? A battery dies down, or if there is a problem with the tire, or there's a mechanical fault. So they could be anywhere in the country. So we have to reach them within. SLAs are pretty stringent. We have to reach them within 45 minutes wherever they are in the country. So that is also another key segment that we kind of address, where it is on an emergency basis, which means we need to be ready with what is the assistance that we need to provide to the particular customer. It could be stranded somewhere on a highway, or it could be a state highway. It could be a local district road, and we have to kind of ensure that there is a technician reaches them along with the spare part. So we would also like to know what is the problem with the car or the vehicle, so that we know if there is an immediate fix that is feasible, or we have to tow the vehicle. There are only two alternatives. We have to take it to the nearest service station to get it done. So if you look at all of these three segments, there are different levels of challenges we talk about. One is to earn trust, which means second is to educate. Third is to ensure that we are able to kind of meet the SLAs, right? So this is a continuous work in progress for us, where we kind of try to redefine the KPIs every year, and we have to reach the highest level of the customer satisfaction.
Thank you. That's really quite insightful. You said you've been using a lot of digital catalogs and the whole digitization of your entire inventory and so on. And I'm sure you are using an extremely predictive, digitally driven supply chain system. And you implemented this at scale, right? And we've seen huge advancements on the supply chain side in terms of embracing digital technologies, modern devices, new age systems, RFID tags, all kinds of things. What did you implement in your supply chain in that sense? And did it offer significant benefit to your business? Did you see that tangibly?
Absolutely, right? So if you let me just take a step back before digitization, how does it happen, right? Retailers, right, would we used to have a salesman go out around on a beat, right? We cater to about 20,000 retailers in the country. We serve about 10,000 garages primarily. We deal with almost 100 brands. So our digital catalog, if you look at unique SKUs, it will come to about 1 lakh, and with compatibility and everything goes up to almost about 3 to 5 million. So that's the range what we are talking about for people to kind of understand, right? So first thing, people always remember part numbers, right? So part number, so the guy at the retailer knows the part number, he will just enter a part number that comes. That was the early days, right? And things started getting complicated, right? It's just, you can't just remember the part number, because compatibility starts coming in. I don't know whether it works with that, all the stuff, right? And in the distribution change, we are in the middle, right? We have our suppliers, which is the OEM and OES providing us. We in turn supply to the retailers or to the garages directly. Now, the garages do not have any kind of prediction, right? The sense that we know seasonally. For example, during summer, there will always be a campaign that says, okay, kind of clean up your AC, so we know there is a set of things. When it goes to winter, it is always the wiper. Rest of if you look at the garage's demand, it is kind of on a continuous basis. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it down. So the prediction model from a garage kind of varies primarily. Retailers, similarly, retailers again supply to the garages. So they know from a certain pattern perspective, they know during this month before the festival season, there is a large movement of goods within the country. So obviously there is an increase of transport needs. And because of that, there will be increase in the supply of a breakdown. So which means the spares need to be there very clear. So for us, the first thing was to kind of look at identify what are the patterns of it, right? So because we are in the middle, and we kind of guarantee to both the distributors and to the retailers and the garages, saying that, look, anywhere in the country, we will be able to provide you the part, because we have about 80 warehouses spread across the country, including north, west, east, and everywhere. So we'll be able to, from the nearest warehouse, within a day, we'll be able to supply the part, whatever the part they kind of order us. So that's the guarantee that we kind of provide them. So for this to happen, it is important that we are able to have digitized information throughout the entire supply chain very clearly, which means we need to have advanced information as to what is the seasonal changes or what are the needs of this customer segment, we need to have pre-ordered those from the OES and OEMs, and these need to be available in the warehouses across the country so that we are able to kind of distribute. So it is the entire value chain that we have to kind of have to use a set of digital. It is just not digital, right? So one of the work that we did with Pluto 7 was to kind of look at ultimately we need to ensure that we don't have too much inventory. At the same time, we are able to meet the demand of the inventory. So essentially, the inventory optimization at each of our warehouses becomes very important, right? So that's where with Pluto 7, where we started working on, looked at what is the forecasting model based on the past history that we get. We know whether it be seasonal or it could be regional, and we had to ensure that the supply is available at each of these warehouses so that we are able to deliver to the customers very clearly. So that is the first step in terms of identifying what is the demand. So this demand identification in turn helped us to go back to our suppliers and state very clearly saying that, look, we anticipate a particular demand in a particular part for the next month. It is forecasted to go up. Please ensure that there is enough supply that kind of comes in, right? So for them also, this information is very important because their manufacturing process is also tied to the information that we provide, right? So it is critical that we are able to take the forecast that we get from our customer segments, translate it, compile it into the various needs, and actually provide them and with the right information saying that this is the exact supply that you need from you at this particular point of time, and this is the forecast projection. So the entire value chain goes from what is the demand that we hear on the ground, looking at it over a past history, that's where we used a lot of AI model, AI and MI models, come back and look at to say, what is the set of predictions? And we know from the past, this is what it is. And then we are able to go back to our supplier and actually kind of tell them. So for a supplier, there is also a range. For example, there is a fast moving part, there is a slow moving part, right? Very clearly. So they also are able to fine tune their production to kind of cater to the market needs very clearly. So it is the end value chain where, for example, what we have been able to done is typically we used to hold inventory for 30 days. Because of the forecasting, we are now able to bring the inventory level down to a 15 to 18 days primarily. So that's a huge significant improvement for us, because at the end of the day, we know that we will be able to reach out to the supplier and ensure that we are able to get the next stock in very clearly. So that's the element of technologies that we have used from a supply chain perspective to kind of drive that. This happens because we have deployed digital technologies on the front end. We have an e-ordering platform where the retailers and garages directly order parts from us. Using this analytics, we know what they searched on, what kind of parts they looked at. So we will know from that we have a sense of analytical models that run and kind of help us then go back and look at to see what was the potential demand of the market. Why this part is more prominent than somebody else primarily. It could be pricing, it could be the preference, it could be the car model where it needs to be fitted. So there's these variations that come into play, which we are able to take, analyze, and then go back and tell our suppliers saying that, look, this is what we need for you to supply, so that we are able to kind of provide that part delivery what we promised at the end of the day, right? So we are saying within 4 hours within the city and 24 hours anywhere in the country, we're able to keep the promise because of all this underlying technology backbone that we have. And that's the significant change that we kind of brought in, sense that if you look at automotives, while the OEMs, if you take a car, there is a lot of technologies that have come in. But automotive at the back end perspective, people have been very hesitant. The manufacturing operations, they brought in ERP and everything, but they've not brought in digital technologies across the rest of the value chain. So we were one of the first to kind of look at how these technologies, at the end of the day, whether it's a retailer or a garage, a digital experience is what is going to enable them to do better. So they can then promise to their customer saying that if I bring my car for service, they can say, sir, I'll be able to deliver the car to you by 5 o'clock because I know that TVS can supply the part. So that's the end-to-end guarantee across the value chain we are helping.
Amazing, very impressive. Just curious to know this, the whole enablement that you talked about. Did it help you during this COVID time in terms of complete disruption of the supply chain and as well as demand?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So obviously the demand definitely went down because people were not driving on the road during that lockdown. Right. So that is one part of it. While there were the commercial vehicles were driving, but again, they were all on the national highway and some of the roads. But on the passenger vehicle side, there has been completely, there's been nobody's driving, right? Even if they drive for a very short distance to the nearest grocery shop and come, right? People don't take trips, right? So obviously the demand definitely went down. So that is one of the aspects we also looked at, is where we had to combine, because if you look at our company, it is just not purely digital. It has to be enabled by a great brick and mortar, because ultimately when a car comes for service, it is only at the physical location that gets done, right? Wherever we can do digitally is where we are kind of trying to enable and kind of get things done. What we've also done is we've also brought in the set of digital technologies also to the physical location. For example, if I bring a car for service, I have the latest diagnostics tools to kind of look at, so that I am able to diagnose the problem in the car much faster and have a higher level of service efficiency that I'll be able to kind of bring along. So our digital is just not only from an online. We call what we call as an O2, offline to online, because we are spread in both areas very clearly.
Offline to online.
So our digital platform has significant digital components on the offline side as well as on the online side, particularly the information transition that happens to it. So along with partnership with Google, we are going to launch our connected car shortly. Right. So this connected car platform, typically, if you look at in India, predominantly it is around, the use cases are mostly around, okay, my insurance, how can it go down, because usage-based insurance has come in. So we have come up with a different model of how to provide a service level quality to an owner. Because as an owner, if I'm getting a connected car, I would like to know what are the problems with my car. Not only know the problems, what is the next set of actions that I kind of need to do. Now, let me just quickly give you a use case. Now I'm driving the car. I suddenly, I get a flash saying that there's a particular problem, right? What our connected car will tell you is what is the problem, what is the action that you need to do. Action could be, please stop the car immediately. Please don't drive. It is dangerous. We will immediately have a roadside assist come and help you automated, right? There's no interaction from the user at all. Automatically, a roadside assist will reach you in half an hour and tow your vehicle and take it to the nearest service station. So this is the kind of digital transformation we're talking about. It's not only this. To the service station, we would have had advanced information saying that this was the problem in the car, so that when your car comes to the garage, they know what the problem is. They would have already done automatically a back-end check to see what is the part needs to be available. So we are actually completing the entire ecosystem through this information exchange and digitalization. So our use case is just not about, to a customer, I have a mobile app. It is the end-to-end value ecosystem that we are trying to bring along by using completely digital technology.
Super. Very impressive. Very, very enlightening. Well, one last question. Can you share with us what is your future IT roadmap, if you may? Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. So currently, if you look at it, what we're creating is what we call as platform of platforms. Right. We understand that the entire aftermarket is a kind of unorganized sector. So as a first step, we have enabled a set of technologies to kind of standardize them very clearly, right? To provide help to all of these, not only to our garages. We have about close to about 10,000 partner garages across the country. To each of them, we provide them with a set of software tools, which are kind of standardized, which will help them diagnose the car, right? What is the problem of the car, so that there is a relevant kind of information. We capture the information, then we help the garages to see what other services that they need to perform. So essentially, through this entire unorganized sector, we kind of bring them business through aggregation. We help them deliver service quality through a set of software tools to kind of drive that. And also, we also supply them the right spare parts, right? So that they are able to keep the customer quality, right? So from an ecosystem perspective, we are providing them with all the three. Now, this entire thing is on a digital platform on a continuous basis. We are continuing to expand. And our intent is by next year, we would like to take it globally, because the automotive sector is completely organized, whether it is in Europe or US primarily. Right? There is not much in the aftermarket space. It is still an organized space. And a lot of them are looking at tools. If we are able to execute a successful model in India, we are pretty sure that can be replicated elsewhere, because it's the same set of problems that most of them have very clearly. While most of the cars have become, have a lot of AI and everything in them, the service stations still typically have only the same set of tools in terms of what they come to repair. They don't have a set of digital tools to kind of enable them for them to connect to the ecosystem and kind of drive. So that's the problem that we are taking. This is a similar problem which is there in India, and we want to expand it onto a global scale. And our partnership with Google and the partners is what is going to help us achieve this very clearly. So with our partners like Pluto 7 and others, we are building a model in India which can be replicated across very clearly, right? So our intent is provide a technology platform in collaboration with the local ecosystem, customize it for the local ecosystem, and available it on a global scale. That is our intent very clearly, where we want to solve the similar problems elsewhere.
I think, even from Google's perspective, while we are partnering with you, to me personally, this looks from on a prima facie, it looks brick and mortar, but there's so much of technology, so much of innovation, so much of digital you used in this, and you made yourself such a leading player in this market. No wonder, and you're planning to go global. And it is definitely on the cards with all the plans that you have. Thank you very much for sharing with us your insights and how you've implemented. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion. And it is personally, I have a lot of takeaways of how people have transformed, particularly organizations like TVS, and you said 100 years old. And this shows the nimbleness and agility of organizations like TVS. Thank you very much, Sai.
Thanks, Anil. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So back to Naina. Yeah.
Thanks, Anil, and thank you, Sai, so much. In fact, I was listening to this conversation, and I was enlightened with a lot of things because as Anil Bradstreet, we do monitor businesses very closely, and I was and I resonate the fact, Sai, which you mentioned, that customers do have a lot of apprehensions, and today they want to feel more empowered and they want to be educated at every given point in time. And if you're able to create an absolute transparent system where they can see and understand the technical aspects, which probably they don't understand, and an entire step-by-step information is given to them, they feel that they're very informed, and they feel to take this. The wonderful part, Sai, is that using the right technology, you have actually made your clients I should say, your confidants, or rather, you have become confidants of your clients, which is excellent. You have also made sure that in your entire system, you have been able to maintain a balance between supply and demand by actually using good analytics platforms, which is really excellent, because at the end of the day, when we look at the entire supply chain, we should be able to create a seamless flow in the information in the value chain to be able to maintain the balance. And also what I observed is that what Anil rightly mentioned, that it looks like a brick and mortar setup, but actually there is a lot. This was just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much happening just below it, and I like the way that you have, decided to also dwell on which would be more futuristic, and especially when you talked about the connected cars. I really like the way that you have moved, or I should say, utilized all three pillars in which we use in research. That is being descriptive, that is ensuring that your client is aware of what's happening, being very predictive, that helping them understand that if these are the potential issues that your car will face, then what is it that you would need to do, and also be prescriptive, where you are able to tell them what needs to be done where, which is really fantastic. I really love this. And last but not the least, Sai, I really love the way where you have envisaged how you are going to bring the fragmented sector all under one roof to be able to ensure that there is a seamless there's consistency in the entire business, which is where I think all the participants in the ecosystem will be very well aware, and they will know what to call us to. I think this is fantastic. I really love this discussion, and I am thankful that Google and Pluto 7 have been more of business partners to you and have helped TSPL move to the next level. I'm looking forward to the global plan, Sai. So thank you so very much, Sai and Anil. This was really excellent. Thank you.
Thanks,
Is ours.
Now, without further ado, let me call upon our next speaker. I would like to invite Mr. Manju Devdas. He's a CEO and supply chain domain expert at Pluto 7. Thank you, Mr. Devdas, for joining us, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Naina. Thank you, Anil and Sai, for the conversation so far. It's been really exciting, not only hearing about TVS history, having worked with them over the last year, and working with an organization who has been 100 years in the business and continue to innovate and digitally transform. We are excited to be part of that journey. What I would like to do is I would like to share some of, let me just make sure I can share my screen. I hope you folks can see the screen. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
All
Ms.
right.
Manju, we can see it.
So what I'm going to do is over the next 10 minutes, kind of quickly walk you through the not only our journey with TVS and give a glimpse of everything that Sai was talking about, trying to relate to some of our small contribution into their long journey and how Google as a platform also has helped in this process. Uh, as a domain expert for supply chain, I have been working with nearly about 300 odd customers worldwide, and it's for us it's always about solving specific customer problems, and when we look at whether it's TVS or similar, the problem statements that you see, whether you take the traditional technologies and new technologies, the business problems still revolve around supply demand, making sure that there is visibility into the cost implications, the supply chain constraints. So we anchored our leveraging these new capabilities of cloud, AI, to solve the same business problems and the 15 use cases that are listed here, which solves the marketing, sales, and supply chain problem. Sai mentioned about looking at end-to-end value chain, the customer experience, the supply chain. It's a connected ecosystem that we are solving these problems for. And when we look at these customers as we are working with them, there is a set of global customers that we work with. The common theme is it's supply chain problems that we solve and customer experience problems. When we look at these problems, like Sai mentioned, a lot of these aspects about how they look at their ecosystem, whether it's pre-COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, I met them pre-COVID, so they were already in this huge digital transformation evolution path. When we look at what has happened with COVID-19, Sai highlighted a few of them, but more importantly, when we look at across supply chain, the fluctuation in the forecast and thereby not only it's your forecast at your customer level, but also the forecast that you pass on to your suppliers and the shortages that you excess or shortages that you face, either because they are not able to produce the same amount or deliver on time, leading to shipment delays. So a lot of these problems that you see, these are supply chain traditional problems, which with the kind of COVID scenarios, it gets magnified. And when we talk to customers across the board, there is one thing that keeps coming up again and again, which is we want to have full visibility to our supply chain. In other words, like have a control tower like a view of what our parts, our suppliers are, what is in our manufacturing plant or our warehouse or in our service centers. So having this kind of visibility means you have data from all these areas centralized and connected. Now, data is nothing but a representation of your business in motion. The more data you have, the more connected the data you have, the more better visibility you have into your business, which means you can make better decisions. And when we look at these and apply Google Smart Analytics Foundation and framework, what we are working with customers is to enable these foundation so that they can bring in data in whatever form it is, whether it's batch or streaming, whether it's audio, video, text, or any kind of information that is processed. All of this processing and then eventually decision making with machine learning AI is to improve those customer experience, to know the situation about your forecast, to know the situation with your supply, to be like Sai mentioned, to meet those SLAs of 1 day or even better in some cases. How do you meet that? It's only when you have visibility. And also there's a lot of decisions that needs to be made. When machine learning AI helps you to make better decisions, whether your demand forecast with higher forecast accuracy, or if you're on parts inventory procurement. So those things all add up for a more efficient business. When we work with customers like TVS, we start with that innovative thinking. We work with folks like Sai, Nat, and these folks, and looked at what is their vision, what is their thought process, why are they looking at connecting all this data on the cloud, and what does the transformation mean for them for their customers, the garages, the vendors, the suppliers. Yeah, we have to think about the whole system and then what the data means across the board, helping them what does it take to centralize this data and then build ML models on top of it. ML and data are not isolated. When you have your information that when you have to bring them together, we build solutions on to solve these problems of demand, supply management, or finding your useful life of your batteries, excess and shortage. When we look at this, your input data could be of various means, whether it's your safety stock, inventory, customer behaviors, weather, sentiment analysis, or different news that affect your demand or supply situation. Feeding that into a solution that we have built with machine learning models, which in turn predicts outcomes such as better forecast accuracy or your capacity planning. So the imagination can go wild in terms of what you want to accomplish. And when we look at these solutions, which we have built and deployed on GCP Marketplace, I'll give you a quick glimpse of it without going too deep in. When you think about all your marketing data, your sales data, your supply chain data, all in one place connected, and when you can look at these data such that not only is your machine learning models continuously self-correcting themselves for you, but also in driving the accuracy where you might miss out because of manual errors or manual forecast. Ultimately, to bring down your excess and shortage, reduces your excess and shortage. And your machine learning models don't get tired. They are not biased. So all of these things improves your supply chain effectiveness. So if I just continue the thread further, a TVS, like we discussed with, like Sai mentioned, they looked at it from a 360-degree angle, from their warehouses to garages to manufacturers, to the whole 9 yards, and looking at their complex supply chain network and connecting the data, and that's what our incremental steps towards digital transformation. And when we talk about becoming an intelligent supply chain, you have to look at the business first, the process first. What are you trying to accomplish? And then understand the data. And like I mentioned earlier, data is a representation of your process. And when you can truly understand that, connecting the data becomes easy. And when you connect the data becomes easy, then you can put ML models across, simple ML models, which will reduce the decision-making time by 70–80%. And that directly translates not only into your labor savings, but also improves the efficiency of your business, because now you are making more accurate decisions, more accurate demands, better reducing the inventory carrying number of days, like for example, instead of 30 days, bringing down to 18 days. These are implications of having a more data-driven supply chain. Just to highlight a few other use cases that we are working on, like large utility companies who have assets all over the state or the city, transmission towers, control towers, they need to actively maintain all the time, and knowing the state of those towers and getting the connected data, whether it's data coming from the helicopters or drones to patrol images captured. Connecting those data is similar, using smart frameworks to connect the data, make the decisions, and help reduce the risks. Similarly, when it comes to improving the taste of beer, using machine learning to replace the beer filter, using machine learning to detect when the filter would go down. Sai mentioned about filter for your motorcycle. Think about the same thing, filtering your beer before it gets into the bottle. So the way we go about doing this, we have done hundreds of these, doing a workshop, understanding the customer's business, documenting the process, looking at the sample data, looking at where digital transformation using data is possible, and coming up with the objective possible roadmap. Then conduct a proof of concept and roll it out into production. One thing I will emphasize is this journey. It is a journey, and I've seen it start off with a small innovation experiment to become a full-blown data-driven culture in enterprise. and planning it right is the key. With that, I'm done with my section, Naina. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Manju. I was looking at your presentation and I just that we still data-inspired world, and therefore connecting the dots is extremely important for all of us. And I believe your system is actually doing that. Thank you so much for. I feel educated today, much more. So thank you so much for this. Well,
Thank you.
I'm sure our audiences as well has some very good takeaways from it, as I have been absolutely educated by the same. And for our audiences, your thoughts matter. And in this next session, we precisely want to hear and address some of the questions that they have asked. And I must tell all of you gentlemen that a problem of plenty is never a problem. And we've got some very, very good questions that have been asked today by our audiences. And the first question is for Sai. What was the biggest apprehension and how did you overcome it when you planned to leverage cloud, especially for a traditional manufacturing organization?
Okay, the first apprehension no, applications we're not sure how they will work the same way, or that was the first thing, fine, right? Second, we wanted to kind of look at it from a long-term perspective and see whether cloud is going to be our choice. Because if you consider us when we started, we are a brick and mortar, which means our ecosystem was limited. Okay, whoever our partners were, and they knew how to access the systems. But then when we look at our long-term strategy, saying that we want to be a global player with a technology platform, cloud became an obvious choice, right? Which means we had to relook at our applications in terms of how they are right now, and how they, when they move on to the cloud, how this is all going to be part of a single ecosystem, and thereby I'll be able to expand it kind of globally. So apprehensions, if you look at it right now, the first thing was we were always in a controlled environment. So obviously the people challenge was there. Okay, what do I, right? Which means the cloud gives me a basic resilience. Will I not have a job? There were obviously certain set of IT people felt that, okay, oh, I don't have much to do because it's just going to be a managed service, right? So obviously we had to do a little bit of convincing, saying them, look, at the end of the day, managed service means routine mundane things is what is going to provide, so that you can go up the value chain and you can do a lot of other things. So obviously there is the people. We were used to a certain process at the end of the day, right? So that is a second disruption. And third is Google is a new, cloud is a new technology, including Google, right? It comes with its own set of tools, which we had to move and say, adapt to a new environment. So pretty much these are the challenges, both from a people, process, as well as the technology front. But thanks to Google and its partners, now we had a very smooth transition onto the cloud, right? Business does not see any disruption. And over a week when we were up on the cloud running with all the planning work that we work with Google and get things done very clearly.
Wow. Thanks, Sai. Very informative indeed. And we will now move to our next question. And the next question is addressed to Anil. Is Google Cloud ready to support critical workloads like supply chain to be hosted on cloud? Are customers making this shift in India apart from what we heard from TVS?
Absolutely. We have hundreds of customers now in India who are enterprise using it for mission critical applications. And we are offering this whole end-to-end spectrum of Google's cloud capabilities in India. And you must know that we have our own India-specific region. We already have it in Mumbai, spread across 3 zones, which helps fault resilience and so on. We also announced our plans to open up in Delhi as well shortly, right? So Indian customers get served from Indian region, Indian data center of Google Cloud. So it is very much highly resilient, mission critical design for enterprises, and there's a plethora of customers, including banks, including manufacturing companies, including telco companies. So we have, and there are a whole lot of digital natives as well, people who are operating in the new area of consumers and the whole digital retail and so on. So very much part of that show. So I would encourage people to take a look at it and talk to us. We'll give you more details on this.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Anil. The next question is for Manju. If we have to get ready for the post-COVID opportunity, how much time and efforts are required to transform the supply chain by leveraging AI ML technologies so that we have not delayed in capturing the market opportunity?
Yeah, so the one thing I would recommend is the COVID. When will it end is a mystery to everybody. So don't wait to start the journey. Let's start with that. Now, when it comes to the transformation, what does it take for you to start the journey and transform? It goes back to basics actually. You may have a lot of data. They might be in disparate systems. First, bring it to one place, and when you bring it to one place, doesn't mean get rid of what you have. It means leverage what you have. Pick a few areas of problems that you want to solve. Start with small experiments, right? If you have a clear plan and a vision and a journey that is already planned out, great. Get started sooner the better, because you have an advantage in some ways. Like you have a more stable labor force, tech labor force. You have the advantage of building the momentum before the market scenarios changes, and there is other economics of the cost advantage and all those things that will continue to play anyway. Now, not only that, when it comes to starting the journey, start with few areas, few problems. By proving those areas work for you, it could be demand forecasting, it could be inventory planning, it could be service recommendations, or any problem that you pick. Not only solving the problem gives you the confidence that cloud works, the security is not the concern that you should be worried about, you get the assurance, but your people, your employees also understand and gain the skills. And once they gain the confidence of, here is how a machine learning model works, here is the output, and here is the business benefit, then the innovation kind of catches fire. And from there on, you're now talking about a data-driven culture where process after processes, the functions are innovating. We have seen this happen at many companies that we have worked with, like Cisco and AB InBev and Hero and many of these companies. So that's the innovation. It's a journey. So start the journey and see it evolve.
Wow, I couldn't agree more with you, Manju. There's another question addressed to you as well. This is from Mr. Gurdeep Kalra, and he's from Infosys. He says that he was quite impressed with your entire presentation of AI ML for bringing efficiency in the supply chain. His question to you is, how the clients are taking this journey from the POC to live projects?
So there's one big thing that everybody needs to be aware of, right? So ML and AI, generally speaking, is seen as magical. And first of all, you have to demystify that and say that show that it's just a lot of math with a lot of compute and memory. That's it. Once you get past that, now few people understand that in an enterprise. Now the broader team needs to understand that there's a change management involved. Sometimes it could take a few months to a few quarters. And once you get past that, once the ROI is understood by the decision makers, now it gets into the roadmap. So from POC to production, expect a lot of change management to play a role. And if you handle the change management and the corresponding education at every level and bring the skill sets also up to par, the rest of the journey rolling into production and all is just logical.
Perfect, perfect. Thanks, Manju. In fact, I am really glad that we managed to take up all these questions, and we would also want to focus on respecting the time that we have set for everyone. So thank you so much, dear speakers, Anil, Manju, Sai, for addressing the questions. And I would like to now invite all of you, because it's polling time. At the end of the day, the thoughts matter, and it only helps us to get better. So I request each and every one of you to gear up for the polling. As you can see, it's displayed on the screen right now. And there are just about 2 questions. So I would appreciate if everyone around here can just, take the poll. because your thoughts do matter for us. And I believe the timer is already started. I can see the numbers increasing, and that's quite encouraging for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, those who have not participated in the poll, it's my humble request to please participate. Just completed about 1 minute. We've got a couple of seconds more to go. It would be really nice for everyone who is not taking the poll to please take roughly about 3 seconds of your time to just fill. There are just 2 questions. Well, time's up. So thank you so very much for all those who have shared your valuable inputs. And with this, I will bring today's virtual conference to an end. To be very honest, this has been the most informative webinar that I have seen. And with real life examples, we are really able to connect with the real life problems, and successful implementation of the same also helps us understand that there should always be context to every relevant context to your problems. That's when you are able to get good solutions, and that chat and Manju's presentation actually helped us give an absolutely fantastic perspective with respect to real life problems. Today's session wouldn't have been a success without the active participation of all our esteemed speakers, of course, and our delegates. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking time out and being part of the virtual conference. A special thanks to Google Cloud and 427 for their support to bring this initiative to life, without whom this conference really wouldn't have been possible. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. With this, I, Naina Acharya, am signing off. Take care and stay safe. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you, Sai. Thank you, Naina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
You
And
too.
Manju, you have a good evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Sai. Thanks, Manju.
Thank you.
everybody.